electric vehicles set up here. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. I've got to take little Mia to the vet, so we'll have a bit of a chat on the way there about what's happening in Spain at the moment. So let's go. Now, as I said, I'm off to the vet. Little Mia has to get some shots, and she's also been licking her paws quite a lot lately, so I'm going to see if she's got a problem there as well, but not sure. I think she's got a few prickles stuck in her paws, and that's what's making her lick them, but I'll get that checked out as well. Now I'm going to a different vet today. We had a dog a few years ago, and we used to go to a local vet here in the town, but I've decided to change because I wasn't really happy with that vet, and if you have a look at the Google reviews, they are not good for that particular clinic. So I'm going to try a new one today, which is in the industrial area. So that's where we're headed to now. So what's going on here in Spain? Well, there's a bit of a debate going on at the moment regarding the high inflation that Spain is suffering. The government is saying that it's going to increase pensions and civil servant salaries in line with CPI, which is around 9% at the moment. So it's going to be a huge cost for the government if that does indeed take place, because as we know, pensions are supposed to be put up every year in line with CPI, but current CPI figures are not normal, as we know. So we'll see what happens there. The Bank of Spain came out the other day and said that that would be absolutely ludicrous to do. Everybody has to take a haircut in Spain. Everybody has to adjust to the current conditions. Companies, workers, government, everybody has to adapt to the high inflation and take a hit, which is the second hit in more or less a decade that we are going to take, because as we know, after the last financial crisis, the Great Recession as they called it here in Spain, when salaries were frozen for years, and we had to become more competitive by lowering salaries. A lot of people, of course, had their salaries lowered, or they didn't increase over that time and lost purchasing power. And here we go again with high inflation. And the Bank of Spain also the other day coming out and saying that the current high inflation is not necessarily a result of the war in Ukraine, but of the COVID restrictions that caused demand to build up, and when that or when those restrictions, let's say, finished, people went crazy buying things, and impossible for companies to keep up with demand, hence the increase in prices, exacerbated of course by the war in Ukraine because of the fuel prices and things like that, but not the only reason for high inflation. And as I said, the Bank of Spain pointed that out the other day, because the government seems to be solely blaming inflation on the war in Ukraine. So we'll see. And as I said, we'll see if indeed the government does increase those pensions and public servant salaries in line with CPI. Interesting times we are living at the moment with the high inflation. Now, the second thing that's making headlines at the moment is the job market here in Spain. We saw that unemployed figures fell below 3 million unemployed people for the first time since 2008, I think. So the job market buoyant at the moment. As we know, that European money's coming into the country, tourism sector is recovering, people going back into those jobs. There is some skepticism because the opposition party thinks that the government, the way they've changed the contract system here in Spain, they're just hiding the figures. Somebody in the comment section said that this happens all over the world, so it's obviously nothing new. But here in Spain, the government did change the contract system. No such thing as temporary contracts anymore. Everybody has to go on to a fixed contract nowadays, even if they are only working part of the year. Companies have to keep that worker on their registry and call them the next time that the job becomes available. So for example, seasonal work like lifesavers and things like that only work during the summer months, basically they are guaranteed employment the next year as well. So no more temporary contracts. And it's going to be interesting to see that if we do change governments here next year, when we have elections, of course, and let's say, for example, the Partido Popular does win the elections, whether they will go back to the previous system, because that, of course, as we know, is known to happen, that policies that are brought in by one government can be short-lived, and as soon as the government changes, out they go. So we'll see what happens regarding that. Now I'm coming up to where this vet clinic is apparently supposed to be, so I'm going to just go in here. Just keep an eye out there. I think it's there on the right. Let me check. It is indeed. So I'm just going to park the car here. Actually, I can probably park in the parking. There seems to be plenty of spaces available. If I can find how to get into this parking, that would be interesting. I'll see if it's here. Here we go. And of course, we've got an Iberdrola office here, which is the big electric, one of the big electric companies here. And they've got 3 or 4 places for electric vehicles set up here. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places for electric vehicles. So I haven't seen that before. Well, I've seen setups for electric vehicles, but not as many as that. So this is the vet clinic. I'm just going to park the car here, take the dog in, get her shots, get her paws looked at, and I'll pick up the video when I come back. Okay, so the vet's done and dusted. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. I was in there for more than an hour and a quarter, so a long time. Now I've got to go and pick up my son from school, who finishes early today. So off to do that now. I'll try and find the quickest way to get there, because I've got about 9 minutes to get to the school. And 109 euros was the cost of the vet and their services there, and that included the rabies shot, it included the other parasite or whatever they call it shots, and also a collar as well. So different things included in that price. Now I'm going to try and go up here because there's a traffic jam up there. So that's the dilemma that I've got at the moment, trying to get out of this Polígono Industrial, and hopefully the traffic's not going to be too bad. Now the last thing I wanted to talk about was the elections in Andalusia. The Partido Popular looks to be on track to get an absolute majority there. We know that they didn't get an absolute majority in the last elections. They were able to govern with the help of the Citizens Party and also Vox in the background, but it seems to be that they're going to get an absolute majority this time around, so I'm sure that Mr. Moreno is happy about that. And breaking that stronghold, that socialist stronghold here in Spain that is Andalusia. So the end of socialism down there in Andalusia, or the end of that social democratic model that the Socialist Party here says that it follows. So it's going to be interesting to see. But anyway, times they are a-changing down there in Andalusia. Now I'm going to wrap this video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Live stream on Sunday evening, 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. let's say. See you then. Hasta luego.